Welcome everybody to our January board meeting. I'd like to officially open the meeting. It's at 5:05. First thing on our agenda then will be to approval of the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Lori, are the minutes up?
No, this is usually, we don't have
Okay.
the minutes yet.
Well, then I just asked my fellow board members the minutes for circulated board materials. Are there any questions, edits, corrections, comments? If none, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the December board meeting.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Board members, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed. Go to the president's update. As everybody knows, we've really been busy over January working on the two projects that as the club closed, the kitchen HVAC project and the men's locker room, which has turned into the Manor House sewer line and ADA bathroom partitions. So it's Nate's and his team's gonna give us an update on that project, but just want to let you know that the projects are going well. And we've got a great team working on them to get these jobs delivered during our downtime. Significant investment for the club back into the Manor House to keep it, bring up the facilities up to the expectations of the members and the services that we've come to expect. We're going to talk a little bit about our strategic initiatives and our key performance indicators. We put together a strategic plan for this year and the upcoming years, and we've been working on defining those performance indicators and the initiatives to deliver it. And we've gone over that as a board, and Dan is going to lead reporting on that on a quarterly basis this year. And our first report be delivered to the board or to the members in February. This month, we're focusing a lot on committee memberships to ensure that we have enough people on the committees to represent the membership body, plus also make sure that we have sufficient candidates for our board nominations. A good board member will have some experience with the club. They'll understand the culture. They'll have a good understanding of the people. And with that experience, and they can bring that experience to the board and continue to build on participation and building the club's success. So I would like for members to think about their participation, where they can contribute so that you can become, take on more responsibility in the success of the club. So we're going to kind of focus on that this month and make sure we have sufficient numbers on each of our committees and be reaching out to members to see if you can help us help ourselves in the success. I would like to report also that unfortunately Marvin McDaniel has tendered his resignation as a board member. Marvin's looked at the commitment requirements and with his personal situations has decided that he just can't make that commitment at this time. Marvin has a lot of great experience. We're going to miss some of that experience, but we really appreciate the time he's helped us, his thoughts, and letting us know that he just at this time can't make that time commitment that is necessary. As per our bylaws, we will follow the bylaws in nominating the next candidate, and the board will reach out to those candidates and seek their participation, and we'll vote on bringing the next replacement board member onto the board. And we'll fill you in on that. We expect that to be happening during February this month.
Sorry, Landon has a
Okay.
computer default, so,
Even still online,
yeah, oh, yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. We're on to key
All right,
decisions.
go through our financial reviews. And
Um,
is anybody monitoring the chat line?
yeah, I
Lori's.
have it up, yep. Do you,
Okay.
key decisions votes were first?
Okay, key decisions?
Yeah.
Alderman?
Okay, we have list of keys. I'm not sure all of them are, it's not quite updated yet. There was an approval of 2 memberships in December. Those were done December 28th. In addition to that, there was an AFB approved for a launch monitor in the month of December and December 28th. Today, there was an approval earlier of a new hole-in-one policy. So that'd be dated 1/31. There was a request and an approval to the board of a leave of absence request made by Lana. That was also approved and was done January 12th. In between the 2 board meetings, there was a request for approval of use of the budget surplus for $72,000. That was requested and approved on January 18th. And finally, again today, there was a request and approval of a purchase of a top dresser for the club, and it was completed January 31st. I guess that last one we could count as being in this board meeting and not being between board meetings.
That was a good update.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess sure. I'm just going to do an update on the status of long-range planning. A few things are going on. First of all, the ongoing projects include the 18th hole and practice complex, which is below budget and on schedule and progressing very quickly. A little bit of delay right now because of the snow, but should be sometime in February that you'll start seeing work on the practice complex. The kitchen HVAC project is within and below budget and is maybe going to be a week longer than we originally anticipated. And I don't know if Nate wants to say anything about that. We'll come back to that. The driving range handrail, we should see sometime in the spring of this year. Dam study is ongoing and continues to be a project that Jason and his team is working on. And then the men's locker room, which was supposed to be just the replacement of a sanitary sewer for one toilet, has turned into a much bigger project where when we got into it, we discovered that many of the sanitary lines coming from above ran through the men's locker room, and most of those were either collapsing or about to collapse, and so it became a bigger project. Additionally, since we have no ADA handicap restrooms anywhere in the club, Nate and his team was able to come up with a solution that allows us to have one ADA handicap restroom in the men's restroom on the main level. And we are still working on the possibility of having one that is a set-alone all by itself. So all that is going forward. Ongoing deferred maintenance projects. Every year we set aside $75,000. And of that $75,000, the men's locker room project amazingly is being completed for the very tight budget of $35,000. And those are the only funds that are committed to date, although there are requests for using additional funds here. Long Range Planning Committee has expanded to include a social membership representative. And I noticed she's on the line here, Teal. Teal Heath is joining us. She's a social member and has been, I believe, since 2014. Is that correct?
That's about right.
Okay, and we really welcome her involvement. She brings a lot of knowledge and experience, and she's been with the club for a fair amount of time, and so we're thrilled that she's going to be on it. So now long-range planning has representatives from full membership, junior membership, and social membership. So that was always an objective as ours, is we wanted a good cross-section of involvement and insight into the projects as they go forward. Next. So for funding on long-range planning, we spent a lot of the money between 18 and the HVAC and everything through the first half of 2023. But starting in the second half of 2023, we anticipate approximately $275,000 for upcoming projects. And then for the next 4 years after that, we're projecting approximately $900,000 in each of those years. Okay.
Hey, Mike, real quick question. Is that the expenditure you expect, or is that the amount of funds that you expect to be available?
Those are the funds we expect to be available. And if we were looking at the expenditures, we would want a lot more than that, but that's what we see as the funds that are available.
Right. So that creates an envelope in which we've got to fit our expenditures.
Exactly. And we're
Okay.
having to
Thank you.
constantly balance and manage between repairing projects that have been deferred maintenance for a long time and doing new projects. And that's a big part of what we're doing going forward. So
There's a challenge, but that's a good chunk of change, which is excellent.
it's far better than we've had for many, many years at this club.
Cool.
The approval in 2021 of the capital fund is making a huge difference, as most of you can see just by walking around the club. So it's a great positive thing. Because we're moving forward with projects, and before we were just trying to capture the list of projects that were out there, we're now, because we have funds available, going to start ranking these projects and sorting them so that we know what projects we're going to try to be doing at what time. So we've changed our priority system to priority 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And as you can see there, priority 1 is projects to be implemented within 12 months. Priority 2 is projects implemented within 2 years, and then 3 years. And then beyond that, we have existing conditions enhancements. So things out there that need to be upgraded, replaced, enhanced. And the timing of that, you never know, but we'll be working on trying to get our arms around that. And then priority 5 is new program considerations, something that we don't have at the club right now, but we think we'd like to have going forward. Again, timing unknown on that. So those are our new priority keys that we're going to be using going forward. Okay. So the process we use is we've implemented a data sheet status process where we have data sheets submitted to long-range planning with enough information in there to give us an understanding of what a project is, the importance of that project, and what the various committees and directors believe are the priorities for those projects. Long-range planning then takes those from all the various committees and tries to sort them and arrange them and come up with a recommendation going forward. So submittals are to be submitted by the managers or the directors. Committees are to make recommendations through the managers, and board members can also make recommendations for data sheets. Note, individual members who would like to make a recommendation are being asked to work through an appropriate committee to advance a potential project. We don't want at long-range planning to be hearing from the members. They need to go through the committees because the committees best understand those particular projects. We currently have 37 active data sheets being tracked. And I know of at least 8 to 10 new ones that are being prepared as we speak. Now, we also had a long list of projects that was well over 60 projects, which means there's more than 25 projects that were on a long list but do not have a data sheet. So we're not going to just drop those. We're going to go back and we're going to ask the committee members and the directors and the board to review this long list, then provide feedback on if the project should remain on the list to allow us to align with our strategic planning. And if so, we're going to move forward with the project. If not, we're going to remove it. But if we move forward, then the managers are going to be assigned responsibility to prepare data sheets going forward. We need this documentation so that we can do a better job of evaluating the priorities. Next slide. Prioritizing the key projects. Annually, the committees and managers are going to be asked to re-rank the priority for each of their data sheets, simply because priorities change, needs change, and we want to be sure that the committees and managers have an opportunity to go back and revisit each of these projects to let us know what they think the priority is for their groups. Then long-range planning, we'll use the rankings to make a priority ranking for 2023 based on information that came from all of the committees. Long-range planning is then to work with financing to confirm the timing and funds available for the projects that we want to go forward in each year. And then we will share with the board our proposed projects going forward so they're informed and aware before any action is taken. And then we'll make recommendations for board approval for any projects in excess of $2,500 and projects in excess of $100,000. Long-range planning and the board will prepare a town hall presentation for membership vote. So that's kind of the steps in the process going forward on long-range planning. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, a lot of exciting projects. And I think that the club is in a fortunate situation, and that is that we actually have funds to start making some of these improvements that many of them have been deferred maintenance for a very long time. Any questions? Okay. Moving on.
Great. Finance updates next. This is Lori. We're going to talk a little bit about 2022. It was a great year. We had an amazing amount of income come through on our membership with new sales, initiation fees, dues. The FME count was over the whole year. The reason why it net washes is because in the membership category, we get the initiation fees and we send over as much as we possibly can operationally to the capital fund. So before I did that and the finance committee voted on that in January, membership was 75,000 ahead of budget, so that's a great year that we had a membership, and it helped compensate for, like, food and beverage did great in their revenue sales. It was helped cover the cost of goods. As you can see, it was 43% for our cost of goods for food and beverage. Food ended at 53. So we expected it to be a higher year from as we were coming in and supply and demand issues. And Justin did a really good job, and Kevin did too, with our offerings and doing what product we can have at what price. So that was great. We overall, before we did our additional capital transfer, we were $154,000 of net operating income, which our budget was 103. So again, every department did what they could to have a successful year, and over budget initiation by 263,000. That's a lot to be spoken from. I think when I got here, maybe it was 4,000 or 3,000 to join a couple years ago, and now we're selling at 15,000 initiation fee. So that's really great. Says a lot about our membership count and the work that you guys are everyone's doing to have the force in great shape, have The pro shop looking good, all those kind of things, food tasting great. Let's see, I already talked about food and beverage overall, so really, this is our year, and we did really good when you look at how we trended in forecast and how we ended up in the year. We had some great events happen in December and November to really push us for that food and beverage part. So next up is we'll just talk about meeting 23's budget and succeeding in our audit and all those year-end reports and all that evaluation stuff. So Dan is going to review some KPIs,
Hey.
right?
Laurie, can I ask a quick question for you? And I apologize if I missed this point. So I'm just looking at the bolded table, execution / operational results.
Yep.
So our actuals were, that's right, yeah, where the cursor is. Our actuals were 82K, which was 20K under budget and 30K under forecast. Is that the operating reserve?
Yeah, well, yes, it is. Right there really is our bottom net operating. I highlighted it there, the 154. So that happened before we decided to send additional capital dollars of operating revenues over to capital fund, just as we did in 2021.
So that's the
yep.
difference between the 633K budget and the 874.
It's the difference
bolded
between
table.
the 154 and the 82. We projected ourselves to end the year at 50 net operating income because we're also putting 30,000 in the operating cash reserve account. It's doesn't really affect our net operating income, but by adding to that reserve, we really came down to a 50,000 net operating. But when you look at your numbers, the 154 difference here to the 82 is the additional funds to capital.
Okay. All right. So I'm still confused why the forecast was 111 and the actual ended up being 82.
No, Ted,
Well-
the actual ended up being 154. So in other words, it was to the good. We were to the good on the forecast, right? So
Okay.
So Ted, just like last year, you always have to look at it before transfers and then what we net out. Okay, so if you take the 154, okay, minus the 71K, which was the additional amount beyond the 2/3 that we moved as part of the budget over to the capital fund, that leaves you with the 83 that Roy has on the right-hand side. So instead of 111 forecast, it was 40K better than that, and it was 154. Does that answer your question?
Okay. It
And so
does.
it's
It's a
like-
little confusing the way it's laid out there.
It
Yeah.
is, we're meeting budget with the 154.
Yeah,
But
no,
we're
I get
also
that. Yeah.
not losing those dollars to retained earnings. We're putting them to the capital fund because the capital fund is like our savings account.
Yes.
If you want to look at it that way.
And
Yep.
then again, just to reiterate, because there's a couple newer people that are on the call, I think, so is that we had never had a reserve fund before. And so in 2022, based on very solid 2021 results, for the first time, we created the reserve fund, which it's not mandated, but the idea is that it would cover any future potential operating losses. So we moved 40,000 in 2022, and Lori is if she hasn't, she's going to move. It's really just an accounting entry, 30,000. So we'll have a total of $70,000 in our reserve fund.
I still think we should call that an assessment avoidance fund. Okay, great,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Second.
Ted, I'll talk about that in a second. I'll talk about the KPIs actually, so. So I've reported each quarter on the financial KPIs, and so I did it here for the year-end results for 2022. As Gary mentioned earlier, we'll also report on our other strategic initiatives, and with the red, yellow, green format at the February meeting. So our first KPI is really a measure of the overall health of the club, financial health, and measured by, are you growing your balance sheet? Okay. And this is one of the recommendations from club benchmarking, is that on a rolling 5-year basis, that your CAGR, your compound annual growth rate grows by more than 5% a year, okay? So we had actually really for almost 15 years, the balance sheet, the member equity or unrestricted net assets was right around $2 million. Okay. In the last 2 years, we've grown that unrestricted net assets from 2 million to 3.1 million, or over 50% in a 2-year period. So, so I think that shows really solid progress in the overall financial health of the club. And that results in a 5-year CAGR of 8.5%. Okay. So we gave ourselves a green there, obviously we're well over the 5%. Second one that Ted kind of just made reference to, I've been a member here almost 20 years, and certainly my experience has been is that thing that members hate more than anything is an operating assessment. So it's certainly good to have a KPI around that. Is that we budget and we execute to create an operating surplus every year, thus avoiding a member assessment due to a deficit. And just as a reminder for people, the bylaws stipulate if we ever have a deficit, it has to be covered like we do it like typically in March of the following year by the members. Again, we do have that now. We're creating that cushion to sort of cover that in going forward. So as Lori just talked about, our surplus in 2022 was 154K for the transfer to the capital funding and the reserve fund. Just so you know, is that we're probably a little different than some clubs in that we historically at Perry Park had budgeted for like a 10K, 10 to 20K perhaps surplus. The finance committee feels like that's like cutting it too close. You miss your budget by 2 percentage points, and all of a sudden you're having to assess the members. So we actually, for example, in 2023, I believe we're budgeting for a surplus of 74K, somewhere in that ballpark.
Dan, could you just kind of put that in perspective, the size of the budget and how close that is?
Yeah, so I'll ask Lori to help me here, but I believe our overall revenues in the budget for 2023, Gary, is right around 4.8 million.
Yeah.
So obviously we gave ourselves a green on this one. The third KPI is essentially a measure of, is the club replacing the cost to maintain their existing asset base. Okay. The area we talked about before is that, you know, certainly not by choice by any previous management teams or board, as far as for years, we didn't have the resources to do this. And so therefore, and as evidenced by Mike's just talking about 65 things that are on the LRP list, is that we have an awful lot of deferred maintenance that we have to take care of. This is a measure of what is our net property, plant and equipment. So it's essentially the value of our property, plant and equipment less accumulated depreciation divided by the total property, plant and equipment, or PP&E. So we're still a little bit behind on this measure against our KPI. We gave ourselves the yellow. You could argue that we should give ourselves a red on this one. However, we gave ourselves a yellow simply because we're making progress. We improved that from 37 to 44% in 2022. Okay. And then finally, the other one that's also a really key measure, if you want to have an operating surplus, is make sure that you're managing your total payroll cost. And our benchmark for that is to keep it below 55%. I'm sure some of you will remember earlier in the year, we were actually well below that. We were about at 52.5%, I think, at the midpoint of 2022. We finished the year at 55%. And I would argue, as far as that, and as you can see on the slide, I actually even think it's possible that we'll be slightly over that in 2023. And the reason is that the investments we've made in our staff, as far as we are very fortunate to have a talented and hardworking team here, And if we want to keep them, we have to make sure we're sensitive to the market and that we're paying at market or above if we want to keep the best people. So we're green in 2022 that we also use what club benchmarking provides that 55% on that. And we're still actually, by the way, in very good position relative to other clubs our size. Many of them are over 55%. But it's something we certainly keep an eye on. However, not to the point that as far as like that, we were going to make sure that we do the things necessary to keep our great team in place. Any questions on that? Is there any questions? on
Yeah,
that?
Bill has a question. Ready.
I have a
for you.
question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you fine. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, I have a question regarding the transfer of initiation fees to the capital fund. At the end of the year, assuming there's still money in the capital fund and that you have a negative operating, can you transfer those funds back into operating to avoid an assessment?
No,
Pardon?
we cannot do that, Bill. And I believe this is in the bylaws is as far as, which by the way, is obviously a good practice anyway. We do a very good job of it here at Great Park of clear segregation of those two different funds, right? But the answer to that is no, you cannot take money from capital to cover an operating assessment. The members have to make that up.
If I believe, Dan, the reason I ask this question is I believe if you go back and we look at the ballot initiative that approved the increase in capital dues, capital fees to the members, that states that those monies collected cannot be used for anything but capital. But it does not address, or we didn't in that initiative, we did not address transfers from operating to capital and money going back the other way if it's necessary.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about that, Bill, as far as that. I don't think, in particularly as a part of that initiative, that it was necessary to do that. I will say is that all well-run, successful clubs use the lion's share of their initiation fees and they're used to fund the capital fund, right? And we actually just got the club benchmarking governance report for 2022, Bill, and more specifically is that the capital dues that we all pay each month, you need to make sure you're doing that to cover all of our obligatory costs, which really has to do with that that PP&E ratio I just talked about. And your initiation fees should be your source of funds for what they call aspirational projects.
Okay, the reason I raised the question is because I believe, I understand that we can't use dues that we've collected from the members for capital funds for operating. But I question, and I'm asking the board, since you have made the decision to switch money from operating to capital, I believe you have the ability to move it back if you need to, but that's my opinion. That would be something you need to, and I'm not suggesting we need it. We apparently don't need it at this point, but I throw it out for that reason.
Actually, we'll take that and get back to that, Bill, because I actually think you made a good distinction there, right? You were saying as far as that, you know, that you couldn't take the capital dues and move.
Correct.
We were to choose, say, but if you, essentially what you're asking is, hey, because you moved part of your surplus from operating to capital, could you move it back?
Yes, that's,
Okay.
I'm throwing it out for you to think about because my sense is that, again, when we put that ballot initiative out, we said it can't be used for anything but capital, but you've chosen to move money from operating into capital, and I believe you have the right to move it back, but that's my opinion.
Bill, actually, I don't agree with that now that I'm thinking through it. Here's why. Because is that, let's just say we chose not to move any of the surplus to the capital fund. Okay, so, but if you ran the surplus in 2022 and you had a loss in 2023, your surplus from 2022 cannot be used to cover your loss in 2023.
Right. The only way we'd be able to do it is this year, we're supposed to be trending at 85% of the net initiation fees to capital. Say we are trending at a deficit in October, we could stop that transfer. And say we need to support operating more within that current year. But like Dan's saying, the transfer that happened in 22 isn't going to support us in 23.
And Bill, that's really it really comes down to that point, right? Is that you cannot take an operating surplus from one year to fund the deficit in any subsequent years. And because because you make that choice, that doesn't now, and it's now capital funds, doesn't give you it doesn't give us the right to move that back to cover an assessment. Does that make sense logically, Bill?
Yeah, because you're talking about 2 different years. Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Hey, so one quick thing, Dan. So these KPIs are really good, and the results are awesome. So I think that's excellent. I think the only question is, what do you do now, having got them all green nearly?
Well, raise the standard up.
So well, for one, we're gonna, as I mentioned, on the challenge of payroll, we still have indefinitely the PPE ratio, Ted, is a work in process. And every year, we gotta, we start from with a blank slate on the operating side, right?
Okay.
I will say this, the one I can sit here today in January and tell you that I would expect to be green, certainly at the end of the year, is the balance sheet. Because of we pay as we go for things right now, is that I would fully anticipate that balance sheet to grow further from 3.1 million, probably to the 3.4, 3.5 range in 2023.
Right.
So, yeah, we have $1 million in projects
Yes.
already.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the
in process.
The
Sorry.
PPA ratio is going to be impacted very positively by some of the stuff that Mike has on his list.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ted, gradually, and just so you know, Club Benchmark, Club Benchmark would tell you that really your goal should be 55%. We realized that we needed a milestone number when we started at 37 to say 50 is a good milestone for us now. And but to your point, if we in fact generate 900K a year for the next several years, we should be in pretty good shape on that.
Cool. That's great.
Right. That's all.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to highlight one of our agronomy team members as the featured employee of the month, Jonathan Warschek, who is in attendance here with us in the room. Jonathan came to us in October, started and pretty much went through a very rough blowout with the irrigation system, super cold temperatures. But a Colorado native from Woodland Park, a CSU grad. He really tops me in terms of one of his favorite places that he visited was Rome, where he proposed to his wife in front of the Coliseum. So that's a pretty difficult one to top. He's an avid golfer, enjoys brewing his own home beer, and flying photography with drones. I kind of chuckled a bit when I saw his funny story about Perry Park, because it kind of drew me back a couple of years ago. The same scenario, same situation. That little creek right off 18T. It's a pretty good wildlife corridor. I got the bejesus scared out of me down there by some animals, and he found himself with a bobcat chewing on some other animal remains down there. I sent a video. It was pretty neat, cool to see. But yeah, just an eerie spot if you're walking down there by yourself. There's be a lot of crazy things. We're super stoked to have him as part of the team. Brings a lot of energy, enthusiasm, great demeanor, asks a ton of questions, and I have really high hopes for him this season and in his future here with Perry Park. So he's a tremendous asset. So looking forward to this season with Jonathan. Can I put you on the spot and ask if you'd like to say anything?
Sure. Again, happy to be here from when I was looking to move out, of course, I was out east. I had known people that worked here before, and I asked, what's it like here? And they have nothing but good thing to say, and it's been that way since I've got here. So more in line, I'm excited to be here with everyone at Perry Park. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Little upgrade over Valley, right?
What's that?
Little upgrade over Valley. Maybe not in the world. Maybe not in the world.
Hey, Keith, as you get into committee reports, as Keith and everybody else who has a committee report, maybe you guys can add to what you have here. I'd be really interested to hear what you're focused on for 2023 and maybe any objectives. And those might be one and the same thing, but it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts, you and all the other guys as you go through this.
Absolutely, yeah, we can definitely touch on that.
Thanks.
I'll hit on that before we even jump into these. As with many of you do in your own businesses, start of the year, certainly we're off season, good time to get everything lined up for the year to come. And easy to point to budget and financial numbers of our goals, and they certainly are, and it's a responsibility that we take seriously. But digging kind of a level deeper, where are we looking to live? Certainly the golf operation, I would hit 3 bullet points. In engagement programs. So recently partnering with Lana, trying to look a little level deeper and making sure that we're providing opportunities for engagement, but really for members that aren't actively engaged. So looking at those that aren't utilizing the membership, or maybe, we see Gary all the time, but we don't see Diane. What can we do to reach out to Diane and get her more involved in the club? So really just looking to improve that level of engagement. Well, we do have a busy tournament schedule and a whole lot of things going on. We want to provide some opportunities for those that just maybe aren't getting maximum value out of it. Next area, the on-course experience. So we know that most of you are here because you love the game of golf. We want to make sure that when you're out there playing the golf course, it goes to your expectations. So that's things like maintaining our 4-hour pace of play, better utilizing the tag system to track that data and maintain that pace of play, but also getting out of the golf shop. So we know that our ultimate value, whether that's Laney, Cameron, myself, or any of the other team, isn't being down there in the dungeon of the golf shop, ringing a cash register. It's getting out there and being on the golf course with you all. Maybe that looks like just walking the driving range for a day, or maybe getting out and actually playing some golf. So engaging more out there on the course itself. And then this one's kind of relevant to a budget number. We're looking to increase merchandise sales by 10% next year. And that sounds like kind of a nominal number when you're goal oriented like we are. However, that's 10% over back-to-back record years. So in order to do that, we have to get pretty creative on how we're going to continue to grow those sales. So you'll see a whole lot more creative programming from us, and really some reinvestment as well. So you heard earlier, investing in a launch monitor, really looking to bring all that business that for years the golf industry farmed out to PGA Superstore and Dick's Sporting Goods back in-house. Let you trust us as your golf professional to fit you for golf clubs, be present, make sure that we're finding the things that you really need for your game, but also finding a really creative merchandise mix. We'll talk a little bit about that from the slide points. So hopefully that kind of answers that question, Ted. Those are the key areas we're looking to improve upon this year. Jumping into our slide. Productive off season so far. January was great. Cameron and myself had the opportunity to attend the PGA show down in Orlando. We've done that back-to-back years now, and a really good, just area where we bring about 28,000 golf professionals together, whether that's industry professionals or club professionals as well, to share ideas. First couple of days that I was down there, attended the Merchandise of the Year conference, which was 90 attendees, all past award winners. And just a great information share, some best practices, industry leaders, whether national sales directors from Cobra Puma Golf or TaylorMade, and just discussing what they see as trends in the industry, but also a whole lot of time just to break out and talk about what's working with really dynamic, high performing clubs, what they're doing that's worked well for them, and we can try to steal those ideas and not recreate it. And then a couple new technology points. We do have that launch monitor. We also purchased a large scoreboard printer. So when we do a big tournament scoreboard, that could take 6 hours of calligraphy back there, just grinding on the scoreboard. We now have a printer on site. We're using a template that'll take 5 minutes. So a whole lot more efficient, but also providing a nice product while we do it. While we were down at the merchandise show, but also through the off season, we've targeted a few new brands for the golf shop. So YRI is kind of a lifestyle product.
really custom ribbon is where they earned their keep in the golf industry. But so these ribbons could be applied to, you'll see a lot of ribbon belts, but that can be applied across the board. So we're excited to partner with them for some kind of non-golf items moving forward. Penguin golf attire. Penguin was around 30, 40 years ago and had a real niche in the market, kind of faded away for a while, but they've reinvested and have some really cool products. So we're excited to bring those in. Evolve custom accessories, just kind of that bespoke accessory, unique to Perry Park. We need to find cool new ways to do that. And then ASICS golf shoes will be new in the golf shop this year. So ASICS makes a great running shoe. What makes them successful in running, also super comfortable on the golf course for our walking demographic. And a few upcoming events to highlight, registration for key events, men's invitational, pre-registration window for past participants will come out early February, February 9th. That will get emailed out to everybody. Women's invitational registration opens April 1st. And then both PPMGL, the men's league and women's league registrations will come up pretty soon on 14th. So keep an eye out for all of those. And it seems like we're a long ways from golf right now as it's freezing cold and snow coming, but it'll come soon. We're banking on it. And then a quick note, the women's, the PPWGA is doing a luncheon on February 25th. A good opportunity for newer members that want to learn a little bit about it, but also just to re-engage, see your friends, and hopefully enjoy a good meal while we're not playing golf. Any questions?
Yes, I have one online from Ted. I think maybe he's attended a few board meetings before.
Never heard.
I don't know. Yeah, he's asking a question. Floating range ball situation.
So part of why ASICS is coming into the golf shop, there is only one floating range ball manufacturer in the market anymore. So for a while, there was Wilson and Strixon. Those of you that have hit range balls on the range know we use Wilson. Wilson got out of the business. Strixon is still in the business, however, not at the capacity that floating range ball demands require. So in order to bring Strixon on for a range ball provider for this year, we had to partner with them in a few different ways. So Strixon golf clubs, basic golf shoes, you'll see some golf balls, stuff like that. We're told at this point that we will have range balls. I'm also told through back channels, don't hold your breath, see what we get. So
Keith, can you also talk about it? Didn't you arrange last year to buy
yes.
really our 2023 supply from Red Rocks?
Yeah, and we're really fortunate that we did that. So even if Strixon doesn't ship us a single ball this year, we will be okay. That's not to say that 2024 will be okay, but we did secure some golf balls from Red Rocks Country Club that will make sure that we can get through this season. Does that answer the question, Ted? So we may be in the clear. It's
Hey, everybody, Jason here again. Ted, probably just to answer your questions right off the bat, some of our goals obviously would be to continue the consistency and the playability of the golf course. You guys as members have become accustomed to enjoying, obviously within budget and financial limitations or situations, I would say with that, this year still looks like we're going to see some increases. And those are not going to levy themselves compared to years past in terms of product pricing. There's still some volatility in the market, the fertilizer markets, items like that. But for sure, that's a goal, is to continue that consistency and the golf course conditioning that you guys have become accustomed to. Obviously, number 18, that's a big project for us. So we need to bring that to the finish line and make that acceptable and make everybody enjoy the money and on number 18 and the practice facility. The goal of mine, obviously, is Jonathan's development. And I think that's very important moving forward, getting him acclimated to the Perry Park system and everything that's associated with that. So those are some key goals for us. I probably highlighted this down the list a little ways. We have embarked down the process of being Audubon certified as an Audubon certified golf course. There's several components to that. We successfully submitted three categories to that right now. We expect a 4 to 5 week turnaround. What that really does is it's just going to showcase and highlight the fact that we are taking the environment into consideration and utilizing those Just call it best management practices and parameters that Audubon would endorse. So a lot of documentation, but again, it's really processes and procedures that we implement currently. It's just getting that on paper and the recognition for that. So pretty excited about going down that path. As Keith said, pretty cold out. Probably had a couple days where single digit highs, and about 15.5 inches of snow in January. We're gonna start going out after some inspection and removing some snow from like say number 12 green, 13 green, as we are gonna catch some warmer temperatures at the end of this week up in the 50s. We just wanna make sure that we don't get a lot of ice formation this time of year with those melts. So we'll move forward with that. Good project on 18 in the practice area has been suspended due to weather. We anticipate that starting back up in February, late February, March, weather dependent. Currently in the process of all the preventative maintenance practices on all the equipment, the golf carts. Refurbishing some of our FF&E or furniture, fixtures and equipment for the golf course, some new T markers. The old T markers were getting to the point where they were deteriorating enough that we're gonna go with a little bit newer style, but similar orientation, but a brand of Sentinel Rock on them, so it'll be very Perry Park identified and unique. Pretty excited about, so we're working on that right now, refurbishing some benches. And that's really that's what we have going on right now. Other than some standard compliance stuff, our normal year-end wraparounds to that, looking at safety data sheets, updating programs. We're in a really good spot.
I have a question for you
Yes.
from Ted. Sorry, I'm gonna call you out, even though you're putting it in chat now. USGA re-rating, when will that happen?
So
Ted, I can speak to that, Ted. So that has occurred. They had no planned schedule of a full re-rate for the golf course. I believe that is 2005. But they came out and looked at the new 18th hole. So the rating for the re-rating really is just the 18th hole with the data they had for our other 17 combined. You did see a little softening almost across the board for the new 18th, which we expected, avoiding, the hazard water crossings.
So Keith, and Gary, you may know since you're on the committee, is that, no secret that when people come here and the CGA seniors validated that, as far as that, nobody shoots their handicap. And so as far as like, I would argue, when we were last re-rated, how much it was reduced was crazy in my mind. Like, how often does that happen? So now you're saying that, well, if we were 127, 126, now we're what, 124 probably from lights?
And I don't have it right in front of me, but yeah. Well, slope, we saw less of a shift on slope, did shift on the rating itself is what we saw.
Yes, the score rating. Yeah. Does it happen every 10 years, Gary?
USGA requires every 10 years to stay certified. Colorado does every 8 years to make sure they get it within the 10 years. And also one of the changes is that USGA and the Royal Golf Association combine the ratings system, so worldwide it's the same system. So that would make some adjustments one time to the incompliant to get to the common rating.
Thank you.
Hey, Gary, I think you meant the Royal and Ancient. And you have to stand when you say that.
You know those other people.
We've never heard of it.
Hey, so are we looking at I had some chatter, I'm not sure whether it was real or not, about redoing the indexes for the holes and re-establishing the green, which I know I'm not sure whether Bunty's group is the only people who use that, which is different from the gold. Are we looking at those at all, or are we just going to stick with what we got?
Yeah, Ted, I'll speak to that as well. So GT&H will evaluate that. However, essentially what we need to do that is hole by hole data. So this year, as we gear up the golf season, you'll see us push out, multiple times, encouraging members to post hole by hole scores rather than just combined nines. And that will give us some data that we can evaluate in the off season of 2023.
Okay, cool. Using data, there's a stunning thought.
It's a whole new concept. Our last president.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone, planning your membership director, so Ted, to answer your questions about what I'm focusing on this year is gonna be three main points. Definitely want to keep my finger on the pulse of the maintaining the market. Definitely is going to be changing this year, so definitely month to month, want to figure that out. Also maintain my relationships with other membership directors in the area and expand that database to other clubs. So we can share pricing and retention information. As Keith mentioned, I'm going to be working with him to maybe engage current members that maybe don't play as much or aren't here as much with growing a short ambassador list. So this goes for any board member or member on the line. We're going a short list of members who we can pair with new members to kind of maybe play around with or have a dinner with or come to an event with to really kind of integrate them and show them what club life is all about at Perry Park. So if you're interested, please reach out to me.
And the other thing that I think would be good as part of that, and just so you know, I'm happy to do it for my Sunday game that I do is that help people join regular groups and ask members if they'll, if you know, to reach out to you about that.
Yeah,
Because the new members really like that.
right. Yeah, golf groups. So we do go over that during onboarding. However, I'm working with my assistant Emily to really bump up the 30, 60, 90 check-in calls with new members going forward. Also working with new and local realtors in the area to really learn when new families are moving into Perry Park. And at that point, they'll get a visit from me and another team member with a welcome basket, letting us know what we're about, maybe gauging the interest in Golf for Social, and then inviting them out for a membership experience. So those are the three big things we're going to work on this year. So getting into the reports for December, we are at an all-time high, as far as I know, to our cap of 311. So doing really well, ended really strongly for the year of 2022, and hoping we can keep that momentum going through 2023.
Lynn, aren't you gonna brag about what you did today?
I can write about that next one. Right, so yeah, we did not budget for any membership acquisitions in January. Usually it's a slow month, of course, it's under the snow, but we did acquire a golf membership today. So
At how much?
15,000.
The first $1,000.
And how much?
15,000.
Okay.
In December, we were able to acquire 4 full golf memberships, 1 junior, 6 social, a professional, and a transfer from social to professional. So we definitely beat budget in December. Really happy with how we ended. We definitely ended up above our FME, so 275.7 to our 268.3 budget. And then our current initiation fees are at 15,000 for full, 6,000 for junior, 5,000 for professional, and then 500 for social. As far as membership by type, our total full golf, our total memberships for the club is 571. So that kind of breaks it out for you. Where like I said, we're just going up, as you can see that line in 2022, just going up and getting new members. So
I guess I would like to ask quick questions. I'm a little surprised that we raised the price of the pool from 12 to 15, but we didn't raise juniors anymore at a time when we're running out of room.
correct. But that's actually in discussion right now with the membership committee. So we're going over that.
Raise junior to explore
Raise
that.
the junior and the professional. So we're going to come back to the board when we come up with the recommendation.
Hey, so Lana, so it's interesting. So we're still not seeing. Are you hearing anybody talking about any COVID impact disappearing? Because we undoubtedly saw an increase through COVID, but that doesn't seem to have gone away. And part of that might well be the improvements we've been able to make to the golf course. But I wonder if is there any general kind of drop back or
There
things
is gonna
still
be, in December, so in December, we were low in our resignations, which will go into the different categories in the next slide, but as far as January, we did see quite a few social resignations just due to non-use. And a lot of that after COVID, we gained a lot of hype for new members in the area wanting to join. So we'll have to go back to committee and kind of strategize on how we engage new social members so that they want to use the club more.
right? But you aren't hearing anything from the other clubs you're in touch with, which is saying they're starting to see membership or rounds disappear a bit as a COVID impact wears off. It seems to, whatever COVID increase happened, COVID drove it, but it seems to have stuck, right?
Correct, yeah, it is plateaued.
Interesting.
Rounds were ticking down a little bit nationwide last year, but kind of within the realm where everyone was so comfortable. And almost many clubs looking for those to decrease just a little bit. Merchandise sales were down 15 to 20%, however, so there are some areas that we're seeing slowly from COVID, but I think as far as, at least in our local account,
And-
private clubs.
In Keith, there's, the USGA just had something out saying that there was also, however, almost a record number of new golfers
Yeah.
in 2022.
I could add to that. My name is Bill Hamlin. I've been a 15-year member at Pinehurst up in Denver.
Ah.
And up there now it's on a wait list and they've seen more golf rounds played in their history. And the numbers have actually been climbing as such. They're on a wait list. Glenmore Country Club is on a wait list. And I believe to the south, oh goodness gracious, what's the name of that club? They're also on the wait list.
So Bill, we actually get data, Roy submits something every month to club benchmarking. We have like, they produce a dashboard every month. Is that as of right now, between 50 and 60% of the clubs in the Denver area have a wait list right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not, you look at this on the surface and some people think it's a marketing type ploy. But being as involved as I was, it is not. I mean, it is full.
Well, your rounds games there, I think it's just in the roof.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in fact, the rounds at Pinehurst got so high that they opened up Monday, which is generally just a closed day for to bring, for maintenance and things like that. They've opened that up a half a day so that more members can use it. So the health is quite fit. It's very, very good.
We don't have any Mondays available. We're open every Monday afternoon.
All right, so moving on, as far as the budget goes, we ended up, again, this kind of breaks it down for where we are, where we landed in the end of 2022, as our actual to budget was above, so great for the club. Retention data, so we did have 3 resignations in December. 2 of those were due to not using the club or a lifestyle change, but total for the year, 45 golf resignations. That includes golf, all categories of golf, and then 28 social resignations for 2022. The resignation percentage, our goal for the year was at 10%, and we did not go over that, so the club met the goal for the year.
Fantastic.
We also want to thank a lot of our new members, especially almost 25% of our new members in 2022 were member referrals. So we like to recognize those families that recommended the club to their friends, to their neighbors, and that ended up joining. And we also like to welcome the new members to the right. We did not have a marketing meeting this month. Took a month off, but we will start that back up as soon in February. Any questions? Yeah, thank you.
Hey guys, Jeff here.
A couple 2023 goals, keeping a closer eye on budget, working with Nate on, monthly meetings with the budget, so we can just keep a closer eye on food costs and whatnot. Maintaining food quality is the number one, goal here at Prairie Park in my eyes. And then, couple personal goals, spending more time with my kids, family. Seems to be one of the number one things. Reopening kitchen, hopefully on the 10th. I really appreciate all the staff and all the members and everybody that's been involved with the HVAC setup. You know, Nate and Joey and Ramon and all them guys, they've been just working hands-on real with that, so I really appreciate that. And let's see what else we got. Oh, okay. I actually ordered a new Blackstone grill. Everybody knows what one of those are, hopefully a flat top grill. With this one, it's a special one. It's gonna have air fryers. We're gonna be able to cook with air fryers and flat top. It's gonna expand our outside menu. So like when we're doing the thing over at Max's when we close down for weddings or cooking on the deck, I'll be able to do a bigger, broader menu, something, you know, not just burgers, hot dogs and whatnot, you know, we're talking hot sandwiches, burritos, street tacos, chicken, you know, teriyaki chicken, all kinds of different things, so that was one of the goals that I wanted for that, so, and, you know, I appreciate it, everybody's back up for that. And then one of the good things, most of the cooks took the whole month of January off. They've been just kind of relaxing in the shade, using up all their PTO and vacation time, and they're ready to gear back up. I think we all are ready to gear up. Just waiting for that, you know, that opening day. So I'll let Kevin cover on the front of the house. Appreciate you guys.
You, Justin? Kevin Brown here. Good evening. So I wanted to share with everyone my goals for 2023. One of them is increasing service standards. And along with that, I have created job descriptions for all staff members. So when we have new staff members, they have a guideline to know exactly what the expectation is. We have a lot of younger staff coming through food and beverage, which is pretty typical. So having them acknowledge as they're hired, what exactly the requirements are, and to have that as a standard here at Prairie Park. Employee retention is also another goal for 2023 and the future. Food and beverage can be a difficult industry to maintain staff. I think we've done a really good job since I've been here to keep staff members and key staff members in the positions they're at. And the growth I've seen here at the club is much appreciated. And with other team members following suit, we can continue to grow that core staff and enhance the food and beverage experience.
Kevin, do you think we'll have luck with the college kids returning for the summer?
Yes.
People like Eli or.
Yes, absolutely. So actually, we have staff members that are transitioning from high school to college, and they will stay with us through the summer. So I'm very optimistic that we'll have enough staff. I don't foresee that being an issue. Third goal would be to create more memories, building relationships with members on an individual basis for me and the team. Just being more present on the golf course, having events on the golf course, and just being more present throughout the whole club. And front of the house, new additions that we looked at in January, new cocktail menu. So this menu was created from the cocktail contest in December, which went over really well. So if you guys want to take a look at this, we have this available in the dining room. So
to be available hopefully next week, for a few events that we're hosting, before we even open. So Poker Night will be in this room, this Friday. Beverage vendor updates. I had a really good opportunity to sit down with a few different beverage vendors and looking at events that they can help facilitate here at Prairie Park. So a really cool bourbon dinner, which is hosted by Horse Soldiers. So they're potentially looking at an event here at Prairie Park, along with other wine dinners, looking at enhancing our wine list as well, and just incorporating more events throughout the year at Prairie Park with wine tastings, offerings on the golf course for Saturday events paired with league play. So I'll be making sure that we have more vendors on site throughout golf outings.
Kevin, so you said, as you meet with like some of these vendors, as far as the alcohol prices did not go up as fast as food prices certainly last year. What's the expectation for 2023 with regards to prices?
Pricing has really stabilized.
Good.
And the way I try and approach purchasing is buying in bulk, and always being mindful of our space and what we can hold. But when I buy in a certain product in a large quantity, the price goes down.
Thank you.
That's all. All I got.
Yeah.
Any questions?
We have a question from Ted Johnson. I'm not sure, he must be a new member. Nate, who wouldn't to share your GM objectives and goals?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question, Ted. I think seeing along the lines of what Kevin spoke about is employee retention. We know it's a bit of a challenge to hire within Prairie Park, and especially with the directors, in my opinion. When I was brought on, everybody said it's a great team to come into, and be able to keep them is going to be my #1 priority. I think that we work really well together. I want to keep that synergy going, having great conversations as we lead into 2023 on goals, initiatives, and everything in between. I think that's going to be a big priority for me, be able to make this an enjoyable environment for everybody to be a part of. I'm really focused again with Gary on the KPIs. Obviously, we had a great pre-con before this to talk about how we're going to keep that moving throughout the year, keeping those quarterly updates, making sure we're staying on those timelines, and then communicating that to the staff and getting everybody to buy into that program. So the governance policies, I think that's going to be critical to convey that to anybody new coming in, and making sure that everybody knows the goals and objectives of Prairie Park Country Club. I know I was talking to Jason about this today, and the kind of the challenge of being at Prairie Park and any private club is you think about working at an organization and potentially having a new CEO every 2 to 3 years, and how that direction of the club can really change in a short amount of time. It can be a big challenge for any organization or any club in general. So going from Ted, your tenure here at the club, and accomplishing great things, and now with Gary taking over, it's a little bit different dynamic. It's a little bit different direction that we're going for the next few years, and trying to get our governance under lock, and making sure that we're meeting all those check boxes. So as we go through that, and obviously with potentially Marvin's departure and somebody new coming on, what would this new individual bring to the board, and how is that direction potentially diverted maybe a few degrees again? So I want to manage that relationship with the board and the staff, and making sure that dynamic stays good. And as always, we want to focus on grammar and punctuation throughout the rest of the year.
Perfect. No, well, I think maybe Ted has something to say. Okay, thanks, great responses. So, next meeting.
Okay, I didn't hear you say specifically you're gonna be open for the Super Bowl party when Kansas City wins.
We're still, I want to kind of update everybody on that process. So HVAC, I've met with all the contractors, and really, if you're unfamiliar, really the holdup right now is we have a third hood within the kitchen that was not to code that we needed for the spec of the job. Ultimately, there's a vent that needs to go from the third hood in the kitchen to the roof to tie into that ventilation system, and we had a blank hood. Kind of threw us for a curveball, and so we had to order a new hood. One vendor said 6 weeks, another vendor said 7 to 10 days, so we're still navigating that. So we're anticipating getting that hood in within the next 3 to 5 days. And if that comes in, that hood is going to require 3 inspections before RK, which is our general contractor, to come back and tie that into the system on the roof. So we get the hood in, they have to weld it, and that requires an inspection. And then when it needs a fire wrap, that will require an inspection. And then potentially, if the fire marshal requires a third wrap, that will require an inspection. And then once that happens, RK Construction can come back. They can install a hood in the ceiling and tie that into the ventilation system up to the roof, which would require another weld. We're gonna have to brace that on the roof and then tie that into the system. So once all that happens, that would require a final inspection to be able to open up for business. So there's still a big question mark on how this is all gonna play out. But at this point, I'm making phone calls a lot of times twice a day to these contractors to make sure the inspectors are being lined up as soon as we know that hood arrives, making sure that our communication lines are staying as open as possible. So I think the team here really knows what's going on, and so does the board, but as for the membership, we are still kind of in limbo on how that's all going to play out.
Nate, could you touch base on, so you talked in detail about the hiccup, but if you could also talk for a second as far as that everything has gone very smoothly with the install of the new HVAC itself.
Yes, yeah, so we had our first rough inspection today, and we passed that for mechanical. And RK's been very good at being here. The entire ventilation system is installed. They're just waiting on that last hood to be put up to be able to tie into that. So the staff here was able to pull all the equipment out of the kitchen, wash that incredibly thoroughly. We've painted the kitchen floor. We've installed the ceiling grid, and then we realized that the diffusers coming down weren't going to fit. So Joey took it upon himself to move that entire grid over 2 inches within a day and a half. So it was incredible work on Joey's staff. And he's also doing work in the men's locker room as we speak, putting in partitions and toilets. And I just have to give him a lot of credit for the amount of time he's been here for all these projects and what he's done, and the incredible amount of work that he's done is, it's been a very fun process to watch him and work alongside him through this. So as we know more, we're going to update the membership, and unfortunately we did not put the weekly reminder out this week due to that. So as we know more at the end of this week, unfortunately, we're not going to open this weekend due to the fact that we're anticipating that hood being delivered on Saturday, and then working through the weekend to try to get that installed. So we will open as soon as possible, but we're still unsure of that date.
Has something gone out to the members informing them that we won't see it this week?
Not yet. No, not yet. So I needed a little bit more
I think
communication
yeah.
from the hood company today, which they gave me all that timeline. So now we know.
But we at least know that, right? So we can let that, yeah, I think people would appreciate knowing
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Anything else? Comment?
Hi, it's Bill Hamill again. And talking with Nate, there was potentially some interest in a pool table. Is that a valid interest for what's going on downstairs? The reason I ask that is that I know the people that deal with Allhausen, which is one of the, if not premier, billiard tables in the industry. And so we started to talk about this, and what it could lead to, and there are a couple of ladies that are professional billiards players in Denver that you can have come down and make it a complete event. So hypothetically, you have a pool table upstairs and everybody, I mean, you could even charge for this because these ladies are very good and they've got a personality to match, if you can imagine. And look at a small 7-foot table. I do know that where up to about a couple of dozen pool cues could be donated to the club, nice ones. And so you have a program upstairs or up here, where people get to see how shots are made and what it takes and really have a kind of an instructional thing. And make it a real club event, and then later have the table moved, of course, then downstairs. And so if there was an interest, I'd present potentially the next board meeting and see how you feel about that. And because you want your pool table to be, we actually customized one that of what it could look like, a little more not ornate, but what would you say, Nate? It would be more rustic, but not. It had a real feel for what this is, and it could be enjoyable. So I mean, that'd be up to you, but I'd be very willing to assist in that. Thank you. Good. We're ready to go to the next board meeting.
Perfect. Great. Anything else? Is it good company? I'll move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.